Sorry.
Oh, please, you're fine.
Welcome to Prop Till You Drop. Football, NFL football player prop bets. Week 14 of the NFL season. And, oh, wait a minute. Let me hit the right button. I knew I'd hit the wrong button here. There we go. And we're here with the fantasy football degenerate, Jen Ryan, and the old man of fantasy football, Emil Cadlick. How's it going, Jen?
Good. Busy day as always. Fridays usually tend to be. But football-wise, I can't believe it's week 14 already. It makes me so upset. I wish we had a longer season.
Well, you had a really good week last week, and you almost called the Jets bet of winning the game if it wasn't for Greg, the former defensive coordinator for the Jets, Greg Williams, who stole your victory in the jaws of defeat, whatever. I'm getting everything wrong today. But anyway, wow, you had that nailed, and then bam.
I almost feel like Greg Williams was like, get me out of here, let me blow the game, right? Because what NFL defensive coordinator doesn't just keep the entire defense and possibly receiver just camping in the end zone waiting for it, right? I was saying to you, I thought like I was getting ready to be like, oh my God, of all of our bets, I can't believe this is the one that's actually going to hit. I was getting ready to retweet our little link from the show and say, hey, we told you to do this, and it's a good thing I didn't click it. And I just want to apologize to all the Jets fans. I feel personally responsible, like I jinxed them because I almost was like, wow, look at us.
Yeah, that was incredible. It was stunning. Now, I don't mind blitzing. I don't want to get off the beaten path, but remember the Dallas was playing Green Bay years ago in the playoffs, and Green Bay had to just get like 30 yards to kick a long, long field goal. That's when you blitz. Because even if it doesn't work, they're not scoring a touchdown anyway. That was crazy. Yeah,
and you had your first win. Just let them catch it underneath and rely on tackles. It was crazy. It was crazy to see. And, of course, it's all anybody talks about on Monday.
Yeah, it was going to last a while. All right, you ready for some quarterback prop bets?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, it's a typical Friday on all of the Jersey sports books. So I will preface this show with, I say it every week, but the lines continue to get tighter and tighter. And not only do the lines get tighter, but there's fewer and fewer props available on Fridays. They really are just like pushing it until Saturday, even Sunday morning in some of these games. So we had to do a little digging this week. But, right off the bat, this Derek Carr prop, plus 120 to throw one pick. You kind of have to, the payout is what drew me into this. And then, of course, you go and you look at your defensive statistics, and there's only 3 teams that have more interceptions than the Colts. So you figure, why not? I mean, it's such a good bet to throw these. I feel like these are coin flip bets. It's a heads or tails. Will he or won't he? And at plus 120, Emil, this is something I expected to be more like a minus 110 line. So I am, I'm definitely, I mean, like I said last week and the week before, if I said it, I bet it, I said it, I bet this one already.
Well, Carr has not thrown a lot of interceptions until the last 3 weeks. He's thrown an interception in the last 3 weeks. So that helps. That helps the situation there, that if he's making some mistakes, even against the Jets.
Sure, and look, he's been incredibly efficient going back to last year. It's just, again, it's one of these, it only takes one.
Yeah, that's a nice number. I like it.
Sure. And then, of course, moving on to Tom Brady, we don't do a ton of Tom Brady props on our little show here because they're usually just not that. When you glance over them, they're pretty efficient, and you just kind of look past it. But again, 3 touchdowns at plus 142. It's that positive payout that's drawing me in. I mean, this Minnesota defense can be thrown on. Brady has thrown for at least 3 touchdowns in 3 of his last 6. They're coming off of a bye. He's coming off of a really good game prior to that bye week. And, again, like anytime we see these top-tier quarterbacks in a good matchup, despite the fact that Brady has had some bad games, it's that 142, and it's the over. It's over 50 points projected in this game. That's really pulling me into 3 touchdowns.
Like you said, he's done it several times this year, and they're in a tough situation. They got to win this game. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and they've lost some games. They're not in the greatest position, so I'm sure they're going to want to put it to Minnesota. And they're at home. That helps a little bit too. So that's an interesting one.
Of course. And I think beyond winning, I think they need to win big here and kind of put themselves back in the conversation of like, hey, we're a competitive team here, and we're going to be a competitive team here when the new year changes and we really start getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
This next one, I'm sure I probably am a little more confident than others, but this is, so one of the books that I bet on, Sugar House, they have these, we've talked about them in the past, they have these things called house specials, which are just these sort of like, they're usually like a one or more scenario, and that's usually where I start my week because I like to see really what they're going to trap me with and pull me in with, and this one pulled me right in. I mean, Jalen Hurts, all we need out of him is 200 passing yards and 1 touchdown, and they're only taking 10-point juice on it, so it's really not that bad. I get that it's a really tough matchup against the Saints, but this is a super low line. I think it's worth exploiting, and I also think it's worth keeping in consideration. There's pretty much no tape on Jalen Hurts right now. So there is that opportunity to sort of catch defenses off their feet, and again, we're really not asking for much from him here.
I like your point about catching defenses off guard, and it happens a lot. I remember Mullins with San Francisco. I think they were playing Oakland a couple of years ago, and he had a monster game. And that was probably the highlight of his career almost. I'm being a little mean, but they caught up to him. New Orleans worries me a little bit, but I kind of like this 200 yards and a touchdown. And New Orleans is playing well. It is an away game for New Orleans, which helps. So it's going to be in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's defense has been playing a lot better. So maybe that'll put the ball in the hands of Hurts a little bit more. So maybe we'll be able to get that 200 and a touch. Yeah,
and really, Emil, what I'm looking for in this game is for the Saints to come out and get like a 10, 14-point lead. Because if they get that right off the bat, he's going to be throwing the ball. And I would say this, if this line was like 251.5, I probably wouldn't take it. But with 200 and just 1 touchdown, I'm a sucker for this one for sure.
That's going to be a fun one.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm hoping he does well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Cowboys fan, but as a football fan, I think I speak for a lot of Eagles fans when I say this has been a couple weeks coming now. I'm sure they're ready for it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then this next one, I feel like anytime I look at any prop bets for any position, there's always one that's got me scratching my head a little bit, and this is one that's confusing to me a little bit. Where Ryan Tannehill to have more passing yards than Mike Glennon is plus 108. So we're getting, the line on our side here, and I'm trying to envision a scenario in my head where Ryan Tannehill doesn't throw for more yards than Mike Glennon. I mean, look, I know Derrick Henry can become a factor in that, but if I'm just looking at 2 quarterbacks on paper and who's the better quarterback and who's the better passer, I'm putting my money on Tannehill, and that's sort of what I'm doing here.
Well, Tannehill did do quite well last week. He went 389 yards against Cleveland, and Glennon did 280 against Minnesota, but Glennon did get just a couple extra yards the week before. But I still like this bet. I like this bet, and I think Tannehill can still get yardage, even though Henry may be running the ball a lot. I've seen that. We saw that a lot last year. Again, very important game for Tennessee, and I don't know if it's that important for Jacksonville. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. I like it.
I find the payout to be most interesting, and this is what I would almost refer to as like in a vacuum bet. Like in a vacuum, if in any given Sunday, to use the cliche, if you said to me, who's going to throw more yards, Ryan Tannehill or Mike Glennon, I'm going to pick Ryan Tannehill every time. So that plus 108, it got me. Um,
You're not going to parlay these things, are you?
I mean, some of them,
Just kidding.
I mean, I always look for that anchor, that anchor bet. And if I have an anchor quarterback parlay, like if I were to parlay per position, I do like that as a good anchor. Like I feel super confident in Tannehill throwing more yards than Mike Glennon. I also feel very confident in that Carr interception, though.
Yeah.
And then our last fun one, we always like to have a fun one that we drop down at the bottom. I mean, we are giving 5 props a position here, so we have to get a little creative. The Red Rifle Revenge. Andy Dalton, he's going back against those Cincinnati Bengals, and this is another fun prop that Sugar House is offering, and it's just for Andy Dalton to throw more touchdowns than Brandon Allen. I mean, when you think about Dalton, oh, hey buddy, we got company. When you think about Dalton and where he was, he was a starting quarterback for the same franchise for 10 plus years, and now becomes the backup in Dallas, and then Dak Prescott's lower leg dies, and all of a sudden he's the starting quarterback for America's team. And now he gets the opportunity against his former team that I know Des Bryant wanted so bad last week and didn't get. By the way, if you did take those Des to score bets, the good books voided it and gave you your money back, so no harm, no foul there. But yeah, I mean, this is minus 200 for a reason. I think the book feels the same as I do, that it's pretty good shot that Andy Dalton throws more touchdowns than Brandon Allen.
Yeah, at Cincinnati. Now, Dalton came back, had a concussion, missed several games, threw a bye. But he did score 3 touchdowns against Minnesota at Minnesota in Week 11, 1 against Washington, and then 2 last week against Baltimore. And I kind of felt like he was starting to get a little bit in the groove. Obviously, he's not who he was. However, he's got an incredible offensive team around him. And even the running back, I'm hoping Elliott can still play, and maybe he can sneak a touchdown possible too. They got options there. If Gannon gets one, Allen gets one, Dalton only has to get 2. It's a pretty interesting bet there. It's kind of scary to bet on the old rifle, but I think there's a really good chance he'll beat Brandon Allen out in touchdowns. I like that bet.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Emil, it's like on paper, and this is what killed me as a fan when Dak died. I know that sounds dramatic, but to me, he died. This offense is just so good, but, look at Amari Cooper. He's kind of been quarterback agnostic. I mean, he's still putting up yards regardless who's under center. So, he's got that going for him, which is good. And again, he's playing in his old stadium. I buy into these revenge street narratives. I think there's just a little extra incentive for these guys. I mean, same could be said for Todd Gurley going home to Los Angeles this week.
Yeah. Well, those are fun ones.
Yeah.
All right, off to running backs. There we are. Oh, speaking of Zeke Elliott, here we are.
Yeah, so you just mentioned Zeke, and look, definitely coming on a little bit. I know he's questionable with an injury, but we know he's going to play. Excuse me. And anytime I see a line, we talk about it a lot. I'm a sucker for a low line, right? So you look at 2.5 catches at plus 140. First of all, payout is wonderful. We love that, right? But again, let's give in the down season, and even with the down season, do we really think it's inconceivable for Ezekiel Elliott to catch it 3 times? Or 3 is. I just think of these scenarios where Dalton drops back, the line is coming, and there's Zeke, and boop, you dump it off 3 times. Like, that's all we need. So you have to feel pretty good about looking at a low line like that and thinking, yeah, that's one that not only could happen, but it has a pretty good shot at happening.
Yeah, they placed it pretty well. Week 11 against Minnesota, he had 2 targets, 2 catches. Washington, 3 targets, 1 catch. And at Baltimore last week, he had 6 targets and 4 catches. So out of those 3 games, he would have only broke 2.5 once. However, at the beginning of the season, he was getting monster targets, and he would have easily done it. So, of course, that was with Dak there. But I think it's, he's again, Dalton's starting to get a little bit better, so I think there's a good chance, assuming he's healthy, that he can break the 2.5 barrier there at the receptions. Where are they playing?
This game's at Cincy.
It's a morning game or it's an early game, so you're going to know whether he's healthy. You're going to have the option there to know whether you can place that bet or not.
Sure, and of course, again, it's kind of feeding into the Dalton going home. I'm expecting Andy Dalton to play his best game as a Dallas Cowboy this week against the team that I believe cut him in the offseason. And then moving on to James Conner. So as I mentioned earlier when we first hopped on here tonight, there's so many games right now because of how sharp and tight the book is getting as these weeks wear on. There's a lot of games where there's just not a lot of player props quite yet. And it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see these, rushing, receiving lines pop up until later tomorrow and even Sunday morning. So I wanted something on James Conner. He's coming back this week. I'm expecting him to be involved in the offense. I'm expecting him to be at his, full health. And you look at a guy like James Conner, who's a really good bet to score any week at plus 105 and not at a line where you're going to be paying the book a little bit extra. And it's just one of those where I see it and I say, yep, I'll take it.
Well, going into week 9, he'd scored 5 times. And, of course, he's missed a few games. He didn't score the last 3 games against Dallas in Week 9, against Cincinnati, and at Jacksonville. But, just scoring. All he has to do is score. He doesn't have to have a lot of yards. And so, again, are they going to put this guy at Buffalo inside the 10 zone? Are they going to run him versus one of the other backs? And I think there's a good chance that'll be the case. So, it's a good bet. It's a bet that... it's scary. I mean, every bet is scary, like you said at the beginning of this year. But I like this bet.
Yeah, it's, again, Emil, when I see a coin flip, when I see heads or tails, he will or he won't, at a positive where it happens to be a super talented guy who gets the look in the red zone, I'm okay with it. And I want action on him right now, and there are no prop bets for him, so you see the score at 105, and you're like, okay, I'll take that while I wait for his rushing yards to come out. And then another guy who, Connor wasn't injured; he was on the list, but Carson was injured. Coming back, he's looking 100%. He's another one. I just want action on him, and we don't have any lines right now for him aside from him to score. And at minus 125, the book agrees with us here. I am fully expecting a bounce back by the Seahawks. They're playing the Jets. We don't need to continue to beat up on the Jets here. We understand what the Jets are, and really, you got to love the game script here. Seattle comes out after that embarrassing loss to the Giants. They get an early lead. We're going to see a ton of Carson. You asked me earlier if I was parlaying any of those quarterback props, and I said I'm always looking for an anchor, my sure thing. This is it. This is my anchor parlay this week. Chris Carson to score is going to be a part of pretty much every single player parlay I have.
Well, the Jets have been playing better, but obviously, as you pointed out, Seattle, they lost that game against the Giants. I just can't believe that they are going to be on fire this week at home against the Jets. Now, and like I said, I think it takes a little bit to get healthy. I think Carson's healthier. I think he's close to 100%. And I totally agree with you. It may be a closer game than we think. I probably not, but I like this. I like this position right here. It's kind of hard to expect him not to score, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And to backtrack to your point about the Seahawks losing last week, it's a really good example of what we said about Hurts earlier with tape, right? They saw Colt McCoy. There's outside of previous offenses, there's just not a ton of tape on Colt McCoy, and he kind of caught the Seahawks sleeping a little bit, and you saw that legitimate backup connection. I mean, look at Alfred Morris. He took all of Wayne Gallman's touchdowns last week. And it just happens with these backups. So if not to backtrack too far, but if you're looking at these Jalen Hurts props, you really should be looking at the Eagles depth chart, and you should be looking at, the second string guys, and that's who he's been practicing with his whole really career as an Eagle. So it's just another thing worth digging into when you're obsessing over these lines like I am.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, the backup, it's just a thing, and it makes sense when you think about it logically. Moving on to Dalvin, I mean, it almost gets boring talking about Dalvin Cook, right? Because you could probably bet him every single week, but there's certain, philosophies, you could say, I have when I am betting on the weekends. And one of them is when I see a bell cow running back under 85 yards, no matter what, I'm betting it. And when you have Dalvin Cook, his total rushing at 83.5, I truthfully don't care who the opponent is or what the situation is. I know he's a little dinged up. I know he came out of the game. But he's somebody in terms of volume and opportunity. It's below 85 yards. I'm all over it.
Now, they are going up against Tampa Bay, which is like the biggest concern here. They're the third ranked defense, best ranked defense against running backs. I'm just trying to look here real quick. What do we have here? 82 yards the last 4 weeks against running backs, and we're at 83.5. However, we've got one of the best running backs in the league who has that opportunity. So I like the bet too. And a lot of people may shy away from that because of Tampa Bay.
I agree, and it's one of those things where, if we're gonna, we can apply, I guess you could say, a DFS principle here, where we trust our process over our results. And just part of my process is, like I said, bell cow backs under 85 yards, guys who more times than not are going to get you a 100-yard game. If the book is giving me less than 85, I'm taking it.
And just another stat here for, let me go to the right team here. Kansas City ran for 87 yards last week. Rams didn't hardly do anything. Week 10, Carolina got 65, and New Orleans got 38. And of course, New Orleans, everybody's running, including the quarterback. So I think that's favorable. I like that.
Yeah, and none of those guys are Dalvin Cook, so we'll take the talent too there. And then our fun running back bet, I'm calling it a Henry pivot because it's so easy to look at a game that Derrick Henry is involved in and completely forget about the other running back on the other side of the ball. And James Robinson, 77.5. I just had his previous games up, and of course I have more windows open than is appropriate. But I'm just pulling it up real quick. I know that this is like, okay, great. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is hitting 5 of his last 6, right? So this is sort of a floor prop for him. And again, I just think so many people are just going to scroll through this game, see Derrick Henry, totally forget about the fact that this guy, James Robinson, very quietly is a little bit of a bell cow too. And 77.5 just feels really nice. And I don't know. I think if you're playing deep, if you're kind of looking at your props and thinking about these on a DraftKings FanDuel perspective, probably figure James Robinson's going to be a lower owned back this week.
Yeah, I can't believe how well he's done. Of course, I know how well he's done, but just looking at the last 6 games, like you said, the lowest he had was 73, which is only 4 yards off of what this is. So like you said, this is a floor. I'm a little confused that they made this bet. Maybe it's Tennessee's defense, but I don't even think that's a reason. Let me go look at Tennessee real quick.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
Tennessee
you could
has given up 103 yards for to each team the last 4 weeks. 133 Indianapolis, Baltimore 129, Indianapolis 56, Cleveland 118. So kind of have to take this bet.
Yeah, it's almost like the book only focused on Henry too, and was just like, yeah, whatever for this other guy. 77.5, very, very hard for me not to take that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, let me see if I can't click to wide receivers. Here we are.
So T.Y. Hilton, I'm just going to throw it out there. This is a little bit of me wanting this. In my two big home leagues where I'm in the playoffs, I scooped him up off of waivers. He's really been coming on a lot as of late. Had a nice game last week. But think about T.Y. Hilton like prior to this like kind of slow and down season he's had. If we saw 4.5 catches for him, we would laugh at that. That's a minimum, right? 5 catches usually for T.Y. Hilton is a minimum. And of course, when Phillip Rivers came to town, I'm like, oh, he's going to get Keenan Allen. He's going to get the Keenan Allen treatment. He's going to get 10-plus targets a game, 8 catches, 100 yards. Maybe he'll score 2. He'll be a wide receiver 1, right? Not the case right now, but 5 catches, even money. Given the way that Hilton has come on, I am not shying away from that bet at all.
Yep, he's definitely come along. It's a little scary. Of course, that's what you're trying to do is look into the future. He 11 targets, 8 catches last week, but 4 catches the week before, 3 the week before, 4 the week before. So, we're kind of hoping that one, he's coming along, and of course he's made over 4.5 last week against Houston at Houston. They're going to be in Vegas. I think he's got a good shot at it. The only worry I have is they have been tending to flatten out. They give a lot of targets to a lot of players. They spread the targets out is what I'm trying to say. But this is a very tempting bet.
It is. And you couldn't be more right about them spreading the targets out. For what it's worth, whenever I'm looking at my wide receivers, I definitely consult wide receiver cornerback matchups. We have our shadow coverage sheet on our site. Of course, there's also the PFF grades, which people like to reference, and according to them, Hilton's got a positive matchup this week. So when you look at it from a matchup perspective too, it's easy to take it. But really, it's the even money, Emil. It's that plus 100 that's got me there. And
gotcha. Cool.
He's a wide receiver 1, and we're asking for 5 catches, and that's the same thing with Tyler Boyd. Another wide receiver 1. All we want is 5 catches out of him. He has a top 15 matchup this week. I love Jordan Lewis on the Dallas Cowboys, but Boyd from the slot, he should just eat him for breakfast. It's really not going to be a problem for him. And again, the book agrees. It's at minus 125. But you have to love the matchup, the usage, and really the upside here.
Yeah, he had, it was a week 10 against Pittsburgh. He had 6 catches. A week 11 against Washington, 11. He had 6 targets and only caught 3 against the Giants in week 12, and then he got kicked out of the game last week against Miami. So, I like the bet. I think it's a good bet.
Hopefully people will think about that and totally look past him, and, those of us who take it, we can rob the book.
There we are.
Tyreek Hill, is there a prop bet that you don't like for Tyreek Hill? Because, not me. You could give me anything for Tyreek Hill, and I'm going to say in my mind, yeah, that's probably going to happen. But, of course, right now, only thing available are scoring props in this game, and I want the action. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it for Hill. He has the top-rated matchup of the week, and on top of that, he's probably top 3 receiver in football, if argument for the top receiver in football. He's as good as betting anybody to score, especially in this high-powered offense. Minus 134, you don't love the payout, but this is another one that certainly can qualify for one of your parlay anchor bets if you choose to go in that direction.
Well, he scored. Now, is this a rushing score or any score?
As receiving
score or any score. He has scored in every game, if I've got my numbers right, except Buffalo at Buffalo in week 6. So,
good anchor.
Another bet that you almost have to make, especially like you said, with the minimal amount of opportunities this time of the year.
Yeah, and just another guy. We mentioned Hilton. We mentioned Hill. These guys are going to crush from the slot this week, and Same thing for Godwin. Godwin's another guy. The only player that has a better matchup this week than Chris Godwin is Tyreek Hill. And both of these guys, they're drawing that slot role. And it's like, we love the deep threats. We love the X receiver. But people forget about the slot. Like, so much money is made in the slot. And Godwin at 68.5. Again, if we go back to our quarterback prop, if I'm expecting Tom Brady to throw for 3 touchdowns, that means I'm expecting Tom Brady to be efficient, and I'm expecting Tom Brady to throw the ball a lot. And there's really any receiver prop on this team looks good. But Godwin, just with the matchup this week, and again, 68.5 yards, I mean, he can get that on 3 catches. And I really like that at -112.
Yeah, that's a very good one. How is Evans doing? I should have looked this up before. I apologize, because Evans was not doing the greatest, so we need to check on him.
It's tricky. It's different because he's such a highlight reel. Because like when he does something, it's so fantastic, and then you look at the box score and you're like, whatever.
Yeah, and Gronk's playing better too, but maybe that'll actually help Godwin with having to put more time on Gronk for the defense. So.
For sure.
That sounds like a good one. 68.5 yards. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, it feels low for a guy who could potentially be the leading receiver on the team this week. And, of course, in a game where, again, I'm expecting a lot of points if I'm expecting the quarterback to throw for 3 touchdowns.
And, by the way, Evans returned to practice today, meaning Friday, and he did a full practice, so he's probably in good shape. So just FYI.
Which is interesting because now I'll be curious to check this line tomorrow because now that Evans is back, I bet you that yardage line goes up, and I bet you the payout changes as well.
Oh. I would expect it to go down, wouldn't you? Of course,
I'm sorry. I meant saying, like, check your Evans lines because those are going to go up. Oh,
his line will go up. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry.
I should have specified. No. That's one of the best things about these Friday practice reports. If you can get the injured guy before he registers to practice, and really before, like, everybody reports he registers to practice, it's one of those fun little tricks to look for on the book.
Got to be quick.
But don't forget. Yeah, they're smarter than us. They're much smarter than us. It's just you got to try to outsmart them sometimes. And then our last fun bet here. This is again another one of those house specials that my favorite book loves to pull me in on. And this is verbatim from their site. They are saying you better bet, and they're telling me I should bet. So of course I'm probably going to do it. Davante Adams over 94.5 receiving, and the Packers to cover 7.5. So the Packers to win by basically 2 scores, however you look at it, right? Plus 225. And I'm trying to think of a scenario where neither of these things happen, right? Like Davante Adams, he's probably going to go for over 100 receiving yards, right? I mean, not probably, but he should go for over 100 receiving. Yeah. And the Packers should handle this game by at least 2 scores. I got the Lions, I look at this and I'm like, why is it plus 225? And the only thing I can come up with in my head is because you need 2 scenarios to come out. But these are 2 scenarios that at least I feel have like a really, really good chance of coming out. I'm trying to pick one that doesn't happen and I can't come up with it, which is why I really like this bet.
Interesting. Yeah, well, obviously this guy is a monster when he's had some incredible games. And then he's had a couple low ones, 53 against Minnesota, 66 against Jacksonville, 61 in Week 12 against Chicago. But I still like it. I like this bet. And then hopefully Detroit won't get all, this should be a good bet.
I don't know why they won't just IR Kenny Golladay. I feel like we say it every week, and it's like, what are we waiting for? Just IR him and make my life easier so I can put him on IR family keeper league where I have him in the 8th round.
They just don't think fantasy sometimes, these NFL teams.
They should.
All right, let's go off to tight ends.
Yeah, so redundant, repetitive. I'll preface this the way I do with tight ends every week. A lot of times you're just looking for guys who might score a touchdown. And when you're looking for guys who might score a touchdown, you're looking for a nice payout. Now, plus 240, this isn't to score first. This is just to score. This is just for Cole Kmet to score. And, Baker's cooking. He's looking really good. Komet's getting, his looks. I'm actually pulling him up now. He's coming off of a season high 7-target, 5-catch game, right? And he scored, of course, so it's easy to sort of chase that touchdown. Keep in mind, this is only his 3rd touchdown of the season. With that said, against Houston, if we're expecting a lot of points, and, I'm not expecting Baker to have the game that he had last week, but I'm also not expecting to completely regress into, bad Baker. I like the guy to score this week. And, again, it's another one of those. I'm going to be checking the books tomorrow and Sunday to see what his receptions is. I think it could be at about 2.5. If it is, I'm taking it. But right now, I just want something on him, and this is what they're offering, and I really like the payout.
That's a big payout. I like that. Yeah, he had a big game last week. He's starting to come on a little bit more. This is a very possible scenario. I mean, it's. I like this. Who are they playing? They're playing Houston.
Yeah, should be a lot of points in that one. And it's hard with these tight ends, Emil. Of all the positions to bet player props on, I almost want to go back and analyze every bet I've ever done and see how I would venture to guess that the tight end ones don't hit nearly as much as the other ones. They're pretty hard. It's just like fantasy football, sometimes, especially if you stream the position, if you're not playing one of these top 3 guys, you're looking for someone to score a touchdown. You're looking for someone to have a good game, and oftentimes you're going to get a tight end with very little points or a huge day. And a touchdown certainly helps with a huge day.
Well, maybe this is the position we should start going under.
I can't do it.
We can't
do it. I can't.
We can't do it.
I just won't bet it. I won't be fake about it. Even there's plenty of tight end lines I look at, and I'm like, oh man, the under is going to come out. But I wouldn't bet that. So I don't even,
That's pretty funny.
I try to be as honest as I can here. Moving on to another tight end, Mo Alley-Cox. It's crowded over there in Indy. However, when you look at 2.5 catches, that's right around his average. He had 3 last week, 2 in the 2 weeks prior, 3 in the 3 weeks prior to that. So
right there.
It's as close to his projection probably as you're going to get. We just sort of need him to do what he always does, which is get about 3 catches. I like the payout, I like the matchup against the Raiders. I'm expecting a lot of points in this game. And given the availability of tight end props right now, I think this is one to kind of hit now because the line could certainly move by Sunday.
Yeah. That's a tough one. It's right there on the razor's edge. It's too bad we don't know if, Trey Burton or somebody gets hurt. That would obviously really make this attractive. Because that's typically...
Oh, yeah.
But we're probably not going to get that.
No, it's tough. It's a tough one. It's when you pour over these tight end props, you look for something that's low and then has a really good shot of happening, but also gives you the good payout.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good payout.
Yeah, and the opposite of a big payout would be a -150, which is Darren Waller on the other side of the ball in this game. Again, this game keeps coming up. I'm just expecting a lot of points in this game, which of course means I'm expecting the offensive skill players on both sides to put up numbers. I mean, we talk about Waller a lot on this show, Emil. He is, without question, a wide receiver 1 with a tight end tag. So if I'm looking at him like a wide receiver 1, as we did with T.Y. Hilton and Boyd when we were talking about wide receivers, 5.5 catches for a guy like Waller, that's really not a lot. And that's why it's priced at -150. But I like it.
Well, that game he had last week against the Jets was insane. It was just absolutely insane. And I don't think I had him in my DFS. And I knew when I was watching those games, I thought, I'm going to lose. I only had a couple of them, but you can. That's where it really hurts you. Atlanta, he held him to 4 catches. Kansas City, he got 6. So he'd be over. Denver held him to 3 a few weeks ago. He's such a monster. But I don't know. It would be interesting. Maybe you and I ought to make a bet. What if I take the under on that one? $5, I take the under on that.
I could put 5 in for you if you want, Emil. Let me just write it down. I have to write down everything.
Between you and I.
Oh, just us?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Friendly. I'll take it. I'll take the over.
Okay, we haven't bet against each other this year, right?
All right, we'll do $5.
And of course, I love Waller. I've got him in half my dang teams.
It's interesting that you go the other way then and take the under.
I'm going to do it. I'm just looking. Well, it'll be interesting to decide because against the better teams, Kansas City, he did. We'll see. I'm going to take the under with you for
5.5
friendly wager. 5.5 for Waller. Okay, I got it.
Under, and I'm writing book it! Exclamation point.
Book it.
And I'm putting the post-it right on my monitor with my other important notes because that's what I do.
It's very important.
There we go. It's
All
like
right,
a Starbucks bookmark.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be, of course, of stuff I have real money on, I don't even care. This is much more important. I'm going to be focusing on what Darren Waller does this weekend. Oh, man. Gronk, we certainly touched on the Bucs pretty much every position but running back tonight. To reiterate, I really like Tom Brady to throw for over 3 touchdowns. This means I really like Tom Brady to throw the ball a lot. Someone he enjoys throwing the football to is Rob Gronkowski. I am expecting a ton of throwing in this game. 35.5 yards. Anytime I look at something like, a player who's got that yards after the catch ability, even though he's slower than me, or these, down the seam guys. I mean, Gronk could get 36 yards, which is what we need in 2-3 catches. I really, really like this line. I feel like 35.5. If we see less than 35.5 from him in this game, I think we're going to be super disappointed.
Yeah. Well, obviously he had a great game against Kansas City. 7 targets, 106 yards, 6 catches. He had 6 targets the weeks before. It looks like, watching the games, not just looking at the stats, that he seems to be in better shape. And, they're targeting him a little more. He's still a tight end, and a tight end can, the floor can hit you there. But I do like this bet. I like this bet, 35.5. It's an attractive bet to me against Minnesota at home.
It really is. Again, I'm just expecting so much from this offense in this game. I'm expecting them to beat up on the Minnesota defense a little bit. And look, if this was 43.5, I would say no way. But I see 35.5, and I'm like, okay, that looks a little better. It does.
Excellent.
And then our last bet here, I'm calling it a GPP-ish bet because it is, to reiterate, it is so hard finding tight end props every week. It's especially hard this week. There's not a lot being offered right now. So I'm looking at those 2 score bets. I know Shaheen, I think it lost one in the end zone last week, if I'm not mistaken. Will it or won't it? Heads or tails? Yes or no? Plus 700. I really, you really like it. And again, we talked about that backup connection a little bit last week, and you'd have to think there's a bit more of a rapport developed between Tua and Shaheen than there is Gesicki, who Gesicki's phenomenal. I just want the guy with the higher payout.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it.
I don't understand that as well as you do because I'm not a bettor, but he scored 3 times this year. That's not a bad bet. Miami has been throwing to a lot of the different tight ends. They don't just stick to one tight end, so they spread it out.
No, they certainly have. And look, we're expecting them to play from behind, right, against the Chiefs. They're going to have to throw the ball to stay in it. You throw $10 on that, and he happens to catch one in the back corner of the end zone, and it's going to pay $70.
I would like to see Fitzmagic be quarterbacking in this situation. We don't know a lot about Tua. What was that?
I said me, and Devontae Parker with like Fitzpatrick back. Oh.
But last week against Cincinnati, I don't think, well, he may have dropped the ball. It says he didn't get targeted, but maybe he got targeted because he dropped it and my system doesn't show it. But, yeah, that's an interesting bet, plus 700. I like that.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of truly throwing a dart.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Parker, let me go look Parker up real quick. What did he do last week?
Yeah, he's better with Fitz. But yeah, I'm not advocating anybody bet Shaheen. I am saying if you feel like, again, rather than walking down to your local liquor store and buying a scratch off, you could do one right on the sports book.
I like it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Any you were curious about, Emil? I got the book open.
I was going to talk about Waller a little bit. You hit the ones that I had, so I don't have any other ones off the top of my head. Those are good ones. So
I was looking at these house specials, and I did have I wanted to get your opinion on one only because I'm looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a player prop. It's not a player prop at all. It's just a 3-team parlay that the book is offering. Bears, Chiefs, and Seahawks. Bears, Chiefs, Seahawks, all to win, plus 202. I feel like the Bears are the wild card here, right? I feel like the Chiefs and the Seahawks are a given. So to me, this is the Bears to win. Curious what your much smarter brain thinks here.
They're at home against Houston. Oh.
Yeah.
What is the parlay getting you? Is it a good number?
It's plus 202. I mean, that's double, it's double your money. It's double your
How
money.
many games in a row has the Chicago Bears lost? I don't even know. But that's what I think it's worth a small bet just to play with that one. I would do that as a small number because they're at home against a team that's, in the doldrums. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. I think it's worth a small bet.
For me, you're betting the Bears money line because I just think I think the Seahawks and oh gosh, who was it already? I already lost it in my brain. The Seahawks and the Chiefs, to me, are locks, right? So you're just betting the Bears to win. So when I see something like that, that's how I rationalize it in my head. And of course, when it hits, I think I'm a genius. And when it doesn't hit, I'm like, God, I fall for it every time.
You're probably getting another defensive coordinator fired this weekend.
Don't say that. Greg Williams got himself fired. I know he did it on purpose. I know he said, I have to get out of here, and this management refuses to fire anybody. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the dumbest thing.
Well, by the way, Myles Gaskin, is there any props for Myles Gaskin, running back?
Oh, so Emil, I'm in a very competitive, not the Diehards Dynasty League because I am awful in that league, but that's just because I need to sharpen my IDP skills. But I'm in a very competitive other Dynasty League where I'm in the playoffs, 6th seed, just got in. Gaskins is one of my starting running backs this week, so we should absolutely look at his props because I need a huge game out of him. Let's see what we have. Hold on, please, everybody. Player rushing. Show me Gaskins. 54.5. We want the over, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is funny.
Just rushing yards or total yards?
That's just rushing. That's what they're offering. And they're actually, this is another fun one. Both quarterbacks, Mahomes, 15.5 rushing, Tua, 11.5 rushing. Here's an interesting one. Player to have more rushing yards, Gaskins or Edwards-Helaire. They've got Gaskins at minus 175, the favorite, and Edwards-Helaire at plus 136, the dog. And I feel like weeks 1 to 5, we would have said absolutely no way. But now you look at Edwards-Helaire, and he's not putting up those rushing yards that he was putting up.
But he was sick. He was sick last week, and that may have been the issue. So, but I like the over on Gaskin at 54.5. Ahmed is out. He's officially out. So they're not going to share time. You've got Laird and you've got, what's his name? There's a bunch of guys, but...
What's his name is accurate.
Yeah, well, you've got Washington and you got Laird. Unless something goes wrong, Gaskin's going to be... The only problem is he may catch a lot of balls as opposed to running them, but I kind of like that bet. That would be one that I'd be interested in right there. If it was total yards, that would be fantastic.
I know I love when they offer the total yards, but they're sharp, Emil. There's a reason they're not offering it is because he does catch a lot of balls.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. I think I would be tempted to take that bet.
Well, let me know if you want to sneak it in for you. I can.
He had 90 last week against Cincinnati, and he also had 51
Got to make you feel good about Zeke this week, right? If
Pardon?
Gaskins went, I said that's got to make you feel good about Zeke this week. If Gaskins went for 90 against the Bengals, and you have Zeke with the Bengals, like I know a lot of people. It's the first week of the fantasy playoffs. You drafted this guy in the first round. I can't tell you how many of my friends have reached out to me this week, saying like, "Oh my God, I have to bench Zeke, don't I? How do I bench him?" After I took him where I did, and he's burned me so many weeks, and I guess if we go back and we look at that Gaskins line, it should give us a little bit of hope for Zeke this week.
Sure. Well, who are they putting in their lineup while they're benching Ezekiel?
That's the thing. I don't know. I've got someone asking me Gallman over Zeke. I had a coworker ask me Gallman over Zeke, and I'm like, Jesus. I mean, look what happened last week with Alfred Morris and all the touchdowns. Yeah. And I had somebody else ask me in a PPR, other side of the ball, Gio Bernard over Zeke, and I'm like, could you imagine answering that 10 weeks ago? Gio Bernard.
It is a bizarre question. A lot of things have changed. I'd play Zeke.
Really
of course, I'm assuming who they're playing, who their possible option is with Zeke, but I don't know. You're at home against Cincinnati, or
it's hard to bench these studs. It's so hard to bench them. I mean, I'm in a conundrum in a league where I might bench Alvin Kamara this week, and I'm like, I don't want to bench Alvin Kamara. I got Eckler and Carson. It's a 10-team league, but it's tough.
Well, Gallman has been doing great, but the Alfred Morris touchdown thing really makes you think twice about that.
Yep, and on a personal note, the Alfred Morris touchdowns cost me a lot of money last week because I had a lot of parlays with Gallman to score.
I see. Yeah, that's no fun at all.
I saw the first touchdown, and I'm like, all right, fine. He poached one. He'll get the next one. And then I saw the second one, and I almost threw my remote through the TV. So
the old remote throw, that does it right there. I remember playing against a guy in the 80s before you were born.
Oh, I was there for a little bit.
He just needed an extra point to win the championship of this league. And I was at his house on Monday night, and the guy missed the extra point, and I think he threw his whole notebook at the TV. He didn't have I don't think it was a clicker. I think it was a notebook.
Oh, he had a notebook, not a typewriter. That's good. That's good.
That's good. Yeah, it didn't really hurt anything except his feelings. But I forgot all about that. Now that makes me very happy that I remembered that.
Excellent.
I wish I had video on it.
Yeah, I love
but
that.
Gaskins could be an interesting guy this week.
100%. And again, I need him in my super competitive dynasty league where I would love nothing more than to advance. So let's go Gaskins. And of course, now I'll have to throw some money on it.
Well, what's interesting is since we're at the end of the show, I went through my leagues a couple days ago, and I'm thinking, oh God. Christian McCoy, thank God he's coming back this week. I need him in like 3 huge games. And I've got Julio Jones. Oh, I've got to play Julio. It's just great. About 4 hours later, I'm like, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. But hopefully I'll find a way. But that guy's annoying me. He's really annoying. It's just... I've got some guys, but you've been waiting all these weeks for Christian to finally give you that push into the playoffs and make it, and one of them I'm already in the playoffs, but whatever. That's part of the fantasy that's tough. You just got to find some other guys and hope you get fortunate and it works for you.
It really is, and like McCaffrey is so good that if he plays, if he's active, and if they're like, oh, he's questionable and he's not 100%, doesn't matter, right? He's gonna crush. Did you get Mike Davis in that league, Emil? Were you able to get Mike Davis? Were you able to get Mike Davis in that league?
Yeah, I have Mike in one league, and I flipped him yesterday. But I'm still going to kind of look around in the waiver wire here tomorrow or Sunday morning just to see. But I do have Davis in one of the leagues. I don't know if I have him in all of them. I can't remember because I was.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you the dopey thing I did that I was really mad at myself for last week? Right before kickoff, I wanted to pick up Brandon Ayuk for the night game, so I waited, and I dropped J.D. McKissick because I was like, all right, let me drop him now because no one can use him. And then Antonio Gibson gets hurt, and that was in 2 leagues. 2 leagues. I was like, oh. Yeah, but if I dropped him, I got too cute. Tried to pick him back up this week, and of course somebody had a higher waiver priority than me, so I missed out on McKissick.
So you have reverse order of standings in that league?
Yeah. It's like if you won, you have no shot at the waivers. This one league I'm in, though, is crazy. The quarterback scoring is insane because you get a point for everything, an attempt, a completion, a first down. The quarterback scoring is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the same thing, you get points per targets, too. They just like a lot of points in this league.
Good.
So
points are fun.
That's why
by the way, Vincent Randazzo said, great job, Jen.
Thank you. Good luck, Vincent. I hope you get rich.
Yes, he's on Periscope. No, actually, he's on YouTube. Sorry, my brain is
awesome.
tired today, as people have probably noticed. Fantastic.
Hey,
any final thoughts, Jen?
No, just if you guys are active on the old Twitterverse, I will definitely be on there Sunday morning, kind of sharing my thoughts because this is just what we're doing today. Tomorrow's going to bring new opportunities, and so is Sunday. As
the props lines change, or maybe even some crop up, you never know. Do they even add some sometimes or not?
Oh yeah, a lot of these games that I mentioned where they don't have player props yet, I'm expecting them to pop up by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Yeah.
All right. Good luck this week. End.